Hello, everyone. Great. Looks like we've hit 12:30, so I think we can make a start. Hopefully you can all see my screen and hear me. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to the OECD's Tax and Development Briefings. I hope you enjoyed yesterday's sessions. And today I'll kick things off with a session highlighting the OECD's work on the taxation of the extractive industry. As way of introduction, my name is Andrew Viola, and I lead the OECD's initiatives in the taxation of the extractive industry. It's my pleasure to be presenting this topic to you today. Presenting with me today will be Alexandra Reedhead from the Intergovernmental Forum, alongside my colleagues from the deep dive programs. We have Emmanuel from Ecuador and Yakuba from the Republic of Guinea. Before we kick off, I might ask Alexandra if you're there. I'll just introduce yourself because she'll be assisting with me today with the presentation.
Sure, thanks, Andrew. Hello, everyone. My name's Ali Reedhead. I lead our work on tax and extractive industries at the Intergovernmental Forum on Mining, Minerals, Metals and Sustainable Development. It's a pleasure to be together with you all today to talk about the very exciting work that we do jointly with the OECD and our regional partners. For those of you that aren't familiar with the IGF, we are an organisation based out of Canada. That's where our secretariat is located, and we support 80 countries, resource-rich countries, looking to leverage their mining sector for sustainable development. So we support those countries on a range of mining policy issues, of which tax is a very important one, and we're here to talk about that today. So thanks very much to the OECD for the invitation to join, and looking forward to the discussion.
Great, thanks, Ali. So just on that, we're just going to go through a bit of an overview of today's session. So we'll start off introducing the topic and look at taxation in the extractive sector. Why is it important for developing countries? From there, we'll get into the BEPS in the mining program and go through the really exciting work that the OECD and the IGF are doing in that space. We have some country discussants, one from Ecuador and one from Guinea, to really talk about their experience they have with our deep dive programs. And from there, Ali will take us through the great partnership we have with the IGF and some of the exciting work that the IGF are doing in this space. And hopefully at the end of this session, we'll have some time to hear from yourselves and have some question and answer discussions as well. So let's get into it. So here we have just a slide, just get a feel and get us understanding is what about resource-rich developing countries and why they've identified the extractive industry and BEPS-related risks in terms of significant challenges to their particular industry. So government returns on extractive projects typically don't meet expectations, and there's a few reasons for that. And some of these reasons we have listed down there. And we've identified these through our global relations work, and we've uncovered these issues and reasons why certain extractive projects are not meeting expectations. And some of these are, what we've noticed is that there can be BEPS related risks. So we have noticed debt loading and related party financing, mineral and commodity mispricing, offshore market hub arrangements, and also management service as well. Some other ways that we've noticed that particularly resource-rich developing countries are not getting the most out of their resources is through potentially poorly designed tax initiatives and financial stabilization agreements as well. Through our work, we've also noticed that the lack of human and financial resources as well is also impacting the way they can administer and monitor the law as well. And through our work, we've also discovered that staff retention is also a significant issue for resource-rich developing countries as well. And another reason why many extractive projects generate limited revenues as well is through weak governance and potentially some corruption as well. But look, think about what is the resource. The resources are finite and renewable. So they present a unique taxing right at a specific period of time, at a specific and you only get one chance to tax that particular commodity. Once it's sold, once it's extracted, you cannot tax it again. So it's quite important that you get the tax policies right at that point in time. And that's a lot of the good work that the OECD and IGF are doing in this space, which I'll take us through during this presentation. But just to kick us off, I've got a few slides here that will go through some of the data, highlighting some of the issues that are faced by resource-rich developing countries. So here we have some statistics from the OECD Revenue Statistics branch, and it really looks at tax to GDP in 2020. And what do we see from this data? I've selected a sample of developed OECD extractive countries and also some extractive developing countries as well. And what we see is that the OECD countries that have extractive industries such as Canada and China and Australia, they are able to generate significantly more tax as a percentage of GDP compared to resource-rich developing countries. And then we look at resource-rich developing countries, say like Papua New Guinea and the DRC, they're struggling to generate, I guess they've got quite a lower tax to GDP threshold. So we see that tax revenue remains a significant issue for resource-rich developing countries, which I think is quite intuitive. This particular slide looks at the extractive industry and its intensity in a particular economy. So here we have the total resource rents as a percentage of GDP, and we have some particular data from the World Bank. And what do we see in this particular slide? We see that developing countries really rely on the taxation they're collected from natural resources as a percentage of GDP. They're highly reliant on the return from natural resources. Look at the countries like Papua New Guinea, Mongolia, DRC, Kazakhstan. The resource rent as a percentage of GDP is around 15%. Massive impact of their economy. And then compare that to the likes of Canada, where its natural resources as a percentage of GDP is only 1.5%. And the OECD average is about 0.6%. So it's really highlighting that developing countries with which that's it, got abundance of natural resources, it makes considerable contributions to their GDP. And any small changes can have a major impact on their economy. And one of those impacts potentially can be in going forward is really around the energy transition and demand for critical minerals. So we have a particular slide here, was from a study from the International Energy Agency, the IEA. And their study found in that by 2040, if the world wants to transition to a net zero future, it will require 6 times the amount of minerals and metals that we have today to build the clean energy technologies that are required to get us to that net zero future, 6 times more. So these minerals are essential components for, say, wind turbines, electrical networks, electric vehicles. So demand for these minerals will continue to grow as we seek the clean energy future. And in this graph, we can see that the reduction of coal over time and the increase of those energy transition metals. And many of those energy transition metals and minerals are going to come from developing countries. As an example, we have cobalt here in the graph, and the DRC is the largest producer of cobalt in the world. So for developing countries to benefit from the energy transition, it's critical that they have the correct tax policies and administrations in place to really capture this benefit at this really critical juncture. What work is the OECD doing in this phase to assist developing countries? So together with our partners, the Intergovernmental Forum, and also our regional partners, we provide a range of capacity building techniques, tools and guidance really on international best practices and to make sure that they appropriately tax natural resources. And this all comes together to what we call BEPS in the mining program. The BEPS in the mining program is a 3-pronged approach to providing our comprehensive deep dive program, our regional training program, and our practical guidance through our toolkits and publications. Oh my God, can you still hear me?
Yes, Andrew.
We can hear you. Just slow down a bit, but you're fine. Don't worry.
I thought I dropped out. I got a thing like internet connection dropped out, so I thought it was a problem there, but it looks like it's still going great. Cool. Yeah. So our BEPS in the mining program is a 3-pronged approach to provide our technical assistance, and we'll go through each of these 3 aspects as well. And what we noticed is through our capacity building programs, we continue to update it and evolve as we see the needs from developing countries. One recent example is through our regional training program, we've offered a training on the OECD's 2-pillar solution. and really make sure that what we provide is really fit for purposes for developing countries and timely as well. Just a little bit on that, as we know, profits generated from extractives are going to be excluded from Mount A, and it's really focusing on protecting the profits of resource-rich developing countries. And also on a Mount B, commodities are expected to be excluded from Mount B as well. So the idea is we noticed a demand for this particular training through our work, and we'll ensure that we delivered on this training to our regional partners as well. So here we have essentially a graphical form of what I just went through, and just highlighting that our BEPS in the mining program is a real collaboration between all our various partners, the IGF, and also our regional partners as well. So we have our regional partners, the ADB, CEAT, and ATAF. So our regional partners are particularly important because they're in the best position to understand the needs of their members. And they also have quite a pool of experts that we can draw upon to also help deliver our capacity building programs as well. And then this sort of all comes together in our partnership with IGF, who have that industry experience and have access to industry experts who can provide real capacity building to tax administrations from mining experts with real commercial experience. And we also work hand in hand with the TIWB program as well. That's quite essential. They're understanding the compliance issues that our countries are facing, and we can feed that back into our capacity building programs as well. And also the OECD also have our global relations program as well. So through that, we can extend our reach to various capacity building. So all these regional partners come together and to deliver these three main objectives. So our deep dive program, our regional training program, and our practical guidance, which I'll take us through each now. Great. So firstly, our deep dive program. So the deep dive program really provides tailored one-on-one support to resource-rich developing countries. It's an intensive 2 to 3 year program. And at the start of every program, we conduct the scoping exercise to really understand the needs and the wants of that particular country and their country. Our deep dive programs through virtual and in-country missions as well. And no two programs are the same. They're bespoke, they're tailored to those particular country needs. No trainings are the same between the various countries, and they're always designed and tailored to make sure that they cover off that particular country's legal and environment, what resources they extract, and maybe some tax risks they face as well. And this is the 4 factors listed in the slide there. So one key factor is that we provide assistance on is tax and policy. So we review the tax and legal framework of that particular country and really check it against international best standards, and particularly with transfer pricing, we compare that to the OECD transfer pricing guidelines as well. We tailor our capacity building to each deep dive. So we will look at the international tax risks that they face, the particular commodities that extract, and provide particular training. Say if they extract gold or copper, we'll provide a particular training on copper pricing or gold pricing or issues that are facing that sector. So really try to make it tailored and meaningful for the particular country. The particular deep dive country may have administration or organizational challenges. As I mentioned, through our work, we've noticed staff retention to be quite an important issue for staff, because there is quite a lot of pressures from externals that may attract the highly educated staff of the tax authority. So we've noticed that as a particular issue, and ways how to combat that. We've come up with some solutions as well. And also audit and implementation. So we support the TIW experts in delivering the TIWB program as well, which is quite important. Our assistance is provided to several government agencies, so the Tax Authority, the Ministry of Mining and Energy, and also the Ministry of Finance as well. Currently, the OECD and the IGF have 5 active deep dive programs. We are looking to expand this in 2023. We've got our Mongolian program, which we've had substantial success in that particular program. If you'd like to find out more, we've got a link there, but that's been one of our quite successful programs. Our other programs are Papua New Guinea, Ecuador, Guinea, and Zambia, which we work in collaboration with ATAF as well. The next element of our BEPS in the mining program is our regional training. So again, in partnership with IGF, and this is really where those regional partners provide further assistance as well. So ATAF, CIAT, and ADB. The OECD, we provide a range of a high quality training course on international taxation and its application to the extractive sector. We have been delivering this particular course for a number of years now. And what we notice every year, the demand for this particular training in each region is increased because the BEPS risks are still there, and they are quite prevalent and quite impactful on the particular economy. So we have currently an 8-module program that we deliver to 3 separate regions. And to give you a bit of a flavour for these particular modules and what they are BEPS risks along the value chain, selling and marketing a mineral, financial transactions. We just incorporate the 2-pillar solution, tax treaties associated with the extractive industry, and also offshore indirect transfers as well. So the range of topics are quite, I guess, spread out and bespoke. And again, these can be tailored to the particular region as well, and some issues that those particular regions are facing. So now, I guess, going to the individual regions, we provide this particular training to Africa. All modules have been completed in 2022. And the idea is that we conduct this training yearly and keep it up to date and keep it developing it. So we will be delivering the same or similar training in 2023. To give you an idea of how many participants and how many countries, we had 28 different countries attend, an average of attendance of around 150 participants. And we've highlighted some feedback there, and the feedback we've received has been quite positive as well. So it really validates the work that we're doing in this particular training sessions as well. LAC, we've almost completed all our sessions for 2022. Again, we've had quite positive participation in that particular region. We had about 200 participants per session. LAC and Africa sessions were 100% virtual. And then the next region that we're also providing training for is the Asia region. We're providing this training in partnership with ADP. And again, they have asked for an in-person training session. So again, we tailor our training to the needs and wants of the particular region. So we will be providing this training in May 2023. And government officials from 11 different countries will be traveling to Manila to attend this training as well. So definitely a good buy-in from the various countries as well. And there will also be a virtual option as well to make sure that if there are some other participants who would like to, from that region, would like to join, we provide that offering as well. So there are main regional training programs. We also provide bespoke technical assistance to other regions as well. And one of those to highlight is our specific face-to-face training, again in partnership with IGF, but this one was with a regional partner, WATAF, on BEPS risks in the mining sector. It was quite successful, and they've asked us to provide additional training, and we're providing training on specific topics, and these have started late last year as well. So really highlights the demand and experience that we can provide in this field as well, and the benefit that I guess other jurisdictions and regional partners really feel from this regional training being provided. Lastly, we have the last part of our BEPS in the mining program, definitely not the least, is our practical guidance, our toolkits and publications. So the OECD have released a range of guidance papers on significant BEPS risks impacting the resource-rich developing countries. I've attached it there if you like to read those, but to explain it, just to give you a bit of a feel for what they are, we have publications on excessive interest deductions, tax incentives, and undervaluation of mineral resources. So this is really our platform where we can scale our technical knowledge and what we call a one-to-many approach, and we can get our technical knowledge to a lot broader audience, and also other materials they can refer back to in their own time as well. Currently, the OECD and IGF, we are developing further guidance notes. The one that I guess is quite close to being released is our new toolkit on mineral pricing. And through our deep dive programs and regional training, we understand that the pricing of a mineral can be quite difficult for many developing countries. So we've developed this toolkit to provide practical and meaningful guidance to developing countries to, one, accurately delineate the transaction, and two, price the mineral on an arm's length basis. So trying to make it, how can we make it most really practical and really meaningful to achieve and really assist the particular country to price in a particular mineral, because I guess that, as we know, feeds through to the revenue line item and they pay tax on corresponding to that. As part of that, I guess, making it practical and meaningful, accompanying this particular toolkit, we have released specific schedules. And again, through our work, we understand that particular minerals have got different demand and supply dynamics. They've got different pricing indices. So you have to understand, if you really want to price that mineral, you really have to understand that particular mineral and what impacts its price. So we are releasing various schedules of individual minerals to accompany the toolkit. And with the initial release of the toolkit, we've developed a bauxite schedule. And the idea is every quarter throughout 2023, we will release a new mineral to, I guess, help particular countries in assisting them with pricing that particular commodity. So that's our main one we're working on at the moment, but we are also working on other toolkits as well. So the offshore indirect transfers, and this is really complementing the work part of the platform for the collaboration of tax, and also one on ring fencing as well. Great. So that was a bit of a download from myself in terms of the BEPS in the mining program, but we have here today some participants of our deep dive programs who are going to share some of their reflections and their experiences from our assistance on our deep dive programs. So we have our colleague Manuel from the Ministry of Mines in Ecuador. I'm sure, Manuel, are you there?
Gracias, Andrew. ¿Me escuchan bien?
Hello, Manuel. Thank you very much.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Sí, entonces, bueno, buenos días con todos y muchas gracias por darme la palabra.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you very much for giving the floor this morning and for allowing me to explain the collaboration that we have with the OECD. I am Emmanuel Delon. I am the Director of Information and Transparency of Mining Activities in the Ministry of Mines of Ecuador. I am part of the ministry for 6 years, and I have been able to see the amazing collaboration we've had with all of you. In order to show the importance of the work that we are doing with you, I am going to give you some general feedback. In Ecuador, mining is booming. It's growing a lot since 2019. In 2019, we started with high-scale mining productions, and that had a very important direct positive impact on the revenues, the export numbers, also employment. There was a new dynamic of the local economies, and those are only some of the benefits of the mining booming. 10% is already 10% of the territory is already explored, and we have found amazing new resources for Ecuador. And companies know that Ecuador has an amazing potential, and that's why we have many projects, many big projects that are going to be implemented in the medium and the long term. We are going to start building, we are going to also start with the production and the subsequent phases. And that's why it's important for us as a country to be able to have clear tools that allow us to give stability to the investors. As you know, mining needs investing for the long run, and the investors need to know that Ecuador is a good country. According to the mining law, the big projects need to be based on a mining exploitation contract. That reality doesn't exist in all the countries, but in Ecuador, given the fact that our rules are not strong enough, it's necessary to have a document in which we have all the contractual specifications of the project. Right now, we have two mining exploitation contracts. We have one in Mirador, which is a gold mine, signed in 2012, and Fruta del Norte, which is also a gold mine, and the contract was signed in 2016. Those mining exploitation contracts, although they have been based on a single document, have different clauses. We are in 2023, and we already have the experience of the management of those contracts, and we have seen that some of the clauses don't help the administration to manage all the different environments. I'm talking about the taxing part, the technical part, the social, environmental sphere, and that can be bad for the Ecuadorian state. I am not saying that we are having problems for the moment, but I have to say that the control levels are low in the country, and that's something that we definitely need to improve. So we have identified the need to incorporate to the aforementioned contracts. We needed to incorporate the best international practices, because that way we will be able to have a better management and control of the clauses. That's regarding the technical, financial, taxing, and social environmental environments. We also try to incorporate the international standards. Before, we didn't do it in the previous models. Right now, IGF is working in the creation of a mining exploitation contract for us, and it's working together with all the technical areas of the Ministry of Mines, also the National Income Center, because we are trying to incorporate all the different aspects of a government that wants to have a better mining exploitation contracts. And that's one of the many topics that we are working together with you. We can mention, for example, trainings for finance modeling, something that has an impact on the kind of contract that we will be having. Also trainings for transfer prices applied to mining and international transfers, and we are working on the reforming the national norms within the framework of the BEPS program, and those are some of the things that we are doing. That's basically the history of the work that we have been doing in relationship to the mining exploitation contract. And once again, I would like to thank you for your support and for having so much patience with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Manuel, and thank you very much. It's quite early in Quito there for you as well, so thank you very much for taking your time out and discussing that with us. But yeah, definitely some interesting developments in Ecuador, and it's just the start of our deep dive program. So we're looking forward to a strong collaboration with yourself and the other government agencies in Ecuador. So thank you very much, Manuel, for taking your time out to present today. I might move on now because I'm looking at the time. So we have our next presenter. So we have a representative from the Republic of Guinea, Mr. Yakuba, who's works in the Ministry of Mines as well, and has got some exciting developments that they have been working on there with in partnership with the OECD and IGF. Just looking if Yakuba is there.
Merci
Bonjour.
beaucoup pour m'avoir donné la parole. Je suis très content de partager ce moment avec vous. Je fais un coucou à Alexandra que je reconnais sur la vidéo.
Good morning. Good morning. I can see some familiar faces this morning. Thomas and everybody else. I can see you. Good morning once again. Good morning. I will share with you today our experience, the experience of using the toolkit in Guinea. First of all, we carried out an analysis. We analyzed tax evasion, and the fruit of this analysis rendered several conclusions and situations. 3 recommendations were drafted. First of all, given the bauxite assessment, the bauxite purchasing price is aligned with market prices. That was the first recommendation for bauxite. And there were losses due to tax evasion from certain businesses. And we had to estimate the volume of investment. For instance, if the investment was significant, of a significant amount, then we found ourselves in the need to amortize the project. So it basically depended on the invested amount that led us to agree upon the data, the information, but that aspect needed to be taken into account too. The third recommendation was to conduct a tax audit in the mining sector. As per the first recommendation on the bauxite sales price, we realized that major losses had been created due to the undervaluation. And after meeting the chief representatives of the ministry, the stakeholders decided to develop a methodology that would address the bauxite price difference. So we very swiftly implemented a technical committee to start working on this, and the technical committee resorted to the OECD initiative. So we worked alongside OECD as our partner on this topic. This was hard work. Actually, we delved into the methodology, and we also acted in collaboration with other ministries of government. At the end of the day, consensus was attained between the different ministries, and the document was also submitted in order to raise prices. On July 6th, 2022 and September the 1st, 2010, the document became effective to introduce the bauxite reference price. First of all, we need to acknowledge that there was political will between the ministries and the different stakeholders. Everybody was interested in rendering positive results. And we also need to underscore the great assistance and support provided by the OECD and by the IGF. Therefore, the work has been consolidated and the road has been paved. And now we can move forward by having this document. The next challenge after the effective date of September 1st of this framework, we're currently working with technical services as well as with the IGF to strengthen the implementation capacities. Presently, We are working on a project so we can have an interministerial committee in charge only of implementing the bauxite reference price. So meetings were held with IGF representatives to ensure that the framework and the objectives are clearly defined and easy to attain. We have almost reached that level, and I would like to take this opportunity to remind you that a mission between the Republic of Guinea, the IGF, and the OECD was carried out, where OECD and IGF representatives traveled to Guinea to facilitate the strengthening and implementation of the technical services. This is currently going on in the Republic of Guinea, as well as another parallel mission, but they are working tightly with the mining ministry to implement in practical terms the bauxite reference price. This is a major endeavor, hard work, and we are sure that mobilization of mining resources will be improved and that benefits will be indirectly transferred to the sector as well. This is the status of our activities. And once more, I want to thank the IGF and the OECD, because without your technical support, so significant support, I believe this would not have been possible. And today we have the possibility to implement the measure in the mining sector. Thank you very, very much.
Great. Thank you, Yakuba, for that wonderful presentation and glowing endorsement of our work. Thank you very much, and taking us through the really exciting work about the bauxite reference price, and does definitely amazing achievement of you and your team as well to get that implemented. So fantastic work from all the different government agencies as well. And as you can see from the two presentations, the work we're doing is quite bespoke and tailored and quite different as well. So that sort of goes back to highlighting the, I guess, point I was making before around we do tailor our engagement to the particular country and the needs of the particular country as well. So again, our deep dive countries are really bespoke and tailored to their requirements and needs. So I think that's it from me. I think I'll now pass to my colleague Alexandra, who'll take us through some of the work that the IGF are working on. Thanks, Ali.
Thanks very much, Andrew, and thanks to Yakuba and Emmanuel for making time to join us today and share their experiences. I think we as IGF and OECD count ourselves extremely fortunate that we're able to work alongside such fantastic colleagues in Guinea, Ecuador, and beyond to do this work. If it wasn't for the initiative that Yakuba and his team had taken to identify the need for a reference price, and we wouldn't have had the opportunity to work on it. Likewise, Emmanuel's leadership around developing a model mining agreement, which is a really fantastic step forwards for Ecuador and a good example for other countries in terms of trying to improve governance and transparency around the sector as well, which is very important. So we're grateful that we get to do exciting work every day together with these colleagues. So Andrew has invited me to share a few reflections on these couple of slides. So I think Andrew's done a great job of setting out the work that we do together with the OECD and with ATAF and CIAT and other regional partners. I think I will just say a little bit more about our kind of theory of change and how we work together with our partners, particularly in the deep dive countries, although as Andrew has mentioned, we do certainly, particularly as IGF, keep some space to be able to provide advisory services to countries. So this isn't a fully fledged deep dive program, which is a number of years and quite intensive from all sides. But advisory work is more even more bespoke, perhaps, or we get a discrete request from a country for assistance in a particular area. For example, a country in Latin America might request capacity building on how lithium is valued and priced, and then looking at the potential policy options to deal with the risk of underpricing in future with respect to lithium. So that might be an example of more advisory services work that we do in addition to deep dive programs. But as Andrew mentioned, in our deep dive work, we try and cover 3 areas. So we try and support countries around their legal and policy frameworks, their audit work, and also capacity building. And we do this because we think that by working across these areas, they are mutually reinforcing. So to give you an example of how this looks in a deep dive country, so for example, I can use the story that Yakuba has just shared in Guinea, where there was need for additional capacity building and sharing of knowledge and experiences around how bauxite was valued and priced. And so that was something that OECD and IGF were able to deliver for government agencies in Guinea to build on the understanding that they already have of the bauxite sector, to further to enhance that, to go deeper, and then now to be able to look at what is a kind of legal and policy framework or set of tools that might help to reinforce that learning and consolidate it, so that going forward, the administration of corporate income tax with respect to bauxite producers is easier. There's more certainty for investors. As I said, it's easier to administer for the tax administration, and there's just clarity across the board. And hopefully this will further limit the risk of underpricing and the potential for transfer pricing abuse in future. So that was an example of where there was kind of capacity building activities to increase the level of knowledge of the sector and of the minerals specifically, then efforts to strengthen the legal environment so as to ensure stronger revenue collection going forward, and then on compliance. So together with TIWB and OECD, working with the tax authority in Guinea on tax audit works, including in relation to the bauxite sector. And so there's an opportunity to really begin to apply those legal tools that Yakuba and the team have put in place. So that's an example of how we try and work holistically across a range of areas to achieve maximum results. I think also with respect to the partnership that we have with the OECD and other regional partners, what we try and achieve here is to bring together our different skill sets. So in particular, IGF brings the knowledge of the mining sector, of particular mineral products, and indeed, not just taxation of the mining sector, but the mining sector more broadly, so environmental and social issues, issues to do with jobs and labour, so a kind of a bird's eye view, if you like, of the mining sector. And we pair that with the OECD's very deep knowledge of taxation, and in particular international taxation, to try and leverage our respective skills and comparative advantages to achieve maximum impact for the countries that we work in. And we found it to be a really helpful model. And if I can move to the next slide, please, Andrew. So this gives you a picture of the countries that are benefiting from our assistance. So this is an IGF map, I should say. So it does indicate the IGF membership. So as I said, we have 80 member countries. We have a real range of members, but the majority of our countries are developing countries. And so the Secretariat supports those countries across a range of policy issues, including tax. So I think the countries that are highlighted in yellow are what we call the deep dive countries. So these are countries that where we have the opportunity to work with over a number of years and provide this very intensive, very tailored issue-specific support. And so the way that we would typically start a deep dive program is to go in to do a kind of diagnostic together with the local authorities to better understand, what are the challenges that they face, what are the opportunities and risks, and then to be able to craft a program that we work together on with our partners over the following years. I should mention also that outside of the 5 deep dive countries that we have together with the OECD, the IGF also has additional deep dive countries that we work with together with ATAF, specifically Senegal and Sierra Leone that you'll see mentioned there. We did until recently have a program with Colombia. We were working with them for a number of years, and now have just begun to wind that program down. And as Andrew mentioned, we're looking for new deep dive countries, particularly in Africa and Latin America, but also in the future in Asia Pacific. So if you're a country that feels that you would benefit from this type of support, that has a significant mining sector, then feel free to get in touch. I think we had a question from a colleague from Bolivia about eligibility, and certainly from the IGF's perspective, and I think this view is shared by the OECD, our main concern is where can we have the most impact, where can we be of the most use, regardless of what different frameworks and platforms you're a part of. So really for us, the key issue is, do you have a mining sector that's significant for your economy, and do you feel that it could perform better in terms of delivering revenues for government? And if the answer to those questions is yes, then please feel free to get in touch, and we'd be happy to consider working with your country as part of the next phase of our program. as I mentioned, we also work with, we have the regional trainings that Andrew highlighted. So that gives us an opportunity to really reach a very large number of countries. So that's why you can see a lot of the world is covered in, that we've had the opportunity over the last 3 to 4 years to work closely with a number of countries as part of this regional training, this flagship training we have on international tax and mining. It's a program that's run over 6 months, 8 modules that covers a range of really crucial topics, I think, particularly for tax administrations, but also policymakers as well. And then finally, there are countries that we work with on a more short-term basis. And I think also there, the OECD is always open to supporting too, depending on resources. As I say, with, we get a country that comes to us that has a very specific challenge in mind, be it in relation to a particular mineral, or they might be reviewing their legislation and want input on specific provisions that are relevant to international tax in the extractive sector. So we always try and leave room to work with other countries. The deep dive model is the one where we think we can have the greatest impact, but occasionally we get countries that come to us that have very, very clear need, very clear opportunity for impact, and that can be a great opportunity for us to provide support and to intervene. So moving to the last slide, and then I think hoping to take a few more questions from the floor. So the last slide is an opportunity for us to briefly highlight some other work that we're doing. So at the IGF, together with our partner ATAF, a couple of years ago, we launched an initiative called the Future of Resource Taxation. So if I could ask if we can move to the next slide, please. Thank you. So the Future of Resource Taxation was an opportunity for us to step back and to take stock of how are we doing in terms of mining revenue collection in resource-rich developing countries. I think Andrew mentioned that oftentimes we hear from countries that they feel that the sector is underperforming, and that's certainly something that we do see ourselves in the work that we do on the ground. And so this was an opportunity for us to rethink how resource-rich developing countries benefit financially from their minerals, in light of some of the ongoing challenges around revenue collection, but also in light of the new opportunities. Andrew mentioned the role that mining in particular will play as part of the energy transition. So there's a lot of demand for critical minerals, which is a moment, I think, for countries to just take stock of the sector thus far and how it's working and perhaps what they could do differently. So we have crowdsourced ideas to try and transform the way resource-rich countries benefit from their minerals. So it's 10 policy ideas that we've then worked on jointly with the authors, the architects of those ideas, to develop into practical ideas that set out in policy papers, going through the advantages, disadvantages, implementation issues. So that work is out there now, and I'll share the link in the chat as well. We've just ended the public consultation period. Now we're incorporating the feedback, and we hope to launch these 10 ideas in the middle of the year. So we will be convening a global conference on mining taxation hosted by the government of Zambia, together with ATAF, where we will have an opportunity to delve into these 10 ideas in more detail, and also importantly, talk more about the work that we do with the OECD and other partners on some of the topics that we've discussed today, particularly around tax administration, international tax. So we do hope that you'll join us for that, and we'll certainly share the details of that conference once they are confirmed. So I will pass back to Andrew, and thanks for the opportunity to say a bit more about IGF's role in this partnership.
Great, Sally. Thanks for taking us through, again, the partnership between the OECD and the IGF, and also to highlight the future of taxation work that you're doing in partnership with ATAF as well. And as Ellie mentioned, I do encourage everyone to read 10 policy ideas. It's certainly a great initiative, and even if you don't understand the topic, go through and explain the various topics as well, and can be a good training tool for your particular country as well. So I do recommend everyone to go and do read these particular policy papers. So timing is perfect. I think we've got about 10 minutes for questions. So do feel free to raise your hand, and we'll do our best to get to as many as we can in the remaining time. So I'll pause here to see if anyone's got any questions on any topic that we've discussed, or anything more broadly about our BEPS in the mining program. Okay, I think we've got a question from Christopher. Maybe if we could please have him unmuted.
He just put his hand off. Andrew, I asked him to unmute, but he's not opening his mic. Maybe it was a mistake.
José Galíndez.
Okay.
But we have Jose Galíndez with a hand raised.
I would like to speak Spanish, is my native language.
Looks like we have one from Jose. Jose, would you like to contribute and ask a question? Yeah. Yes.
In fact, my question is, for example, digital economy impact mining sector. I understand with Alexandra today we don't speak the impact of Pillar 2 of mining sector. My question is, for example, in the different technical assistance with OECD and IEF, will you work, for example, in technical assistance to try to work digitalization in mining sector? That is my question, sir. Sure.
I think it cut out a little bit for me there, but I think the question was in relation to Pillar 2 and the interaction with the mining sector. The bit of work where we're doing that now, I think Ali put a document in the chat that the IGF have been working on in this particular field. And the work that's really focusing is on tax incentives and the interaction with Pillar 2, because there is, with the global minimum tax, there is a real possibility that a lot of the resource-rich developing countries have provided tax incentives to various countries. And how these tax incentives might play out is that they are providing other countries, and how the Pillar 2 rules are worked with the taxing rights to, I guess, take that minimum tax from the particular developing country as well, which may not be the point of the particular tax incentive. So the training is really focused on, and the paper that IGF have developed is really going through the various rules, how they operate, and then focusing on tax incentives as well, and how tax incentives may be impacted by the new globe rules. So they go through, well, is it a revenue-based system? Is it a cost-based tax incentives? How will that implement? And they also provide recommendations around, are there better tax, if you are going to provide a tax incentive, which tax incentive should be provided that may not, I guess, be impacted by, or as maybe less to extent impacted by Pillar 2 as well. So I do recommend for yourself to read that document. And it is quite a detailed document. It goes through all the various aspects of, I said, the rules and how it will impact resource-rich developing countries as well. I'm not sure, Ali, anything you would like to add on that question?
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks, Jose. I think just to say, as many people that are participating today will be aware, obviously Pillar 2 has much wider reach than just beyond the extractive sector, but I think it has particular relevance in this sector because we have seen in the past, at least, quite a number of tax incentives in the extractive sector, which in some respects might seem counterintuitive because it's a location-specific resource, and so as a result, investment should be less mobile. But for various reasons, we do tend to see quite a number of tax incentives, particularly in older investment agreements, but even today, still new investment agreements with sometimes quite favorable tax incentives there. And in some cases, those incentives might be necessary to induce investment, and in other cases, they might not be. I think the key issue now with the global minimum tax going forward is that those incentives may be redundant and may result in a transfer of tax from the producing country to the country where the parent company is located. And that would be a really bad outcome for resource-rich countries. And so it's an opportunity to go back and have a look and revisit any incentives that they might have given either in the domestic law or in investment agreements. So I think it's an opportunity to try and address some of these challenges that have been part of the reason that countries have raised concerns about the sector underperforming, as Andrew highlighted at the start.
Thanks, Alan. Just, I guess, add on there a little bit about the OECD work they do in that sphere. They do have, it was, I guess, discussed in a previous tax and development session. I think the first session in room 1 yesterday. And the OECD have a selected number of countries, pilot countries, that we are working one-on-one with to help them understand the globe rules and how they may interact with tax incentives as well. So this is definitely an area that the OECD is providing further capacity building on, and we do see it as an issue. And again, as Ali said, it's not specific to the extractive sector. It's quite broader than that, but we do see it being quite prominent in the extractive sector as well. So this is definitely one area that the OECD is providing practical and meaningful assistance to developing countries. Great. Do we have any further questions?
There's another question in the chat, Andrew, about how we go about selecting countries to work with. Maybe you want to respond to it first and I can come in.
Yeah, no, that's a very good question. The first, I guess, obvious one is, are they a resource producing country? Do they export resources, the extent of their resources? As Ali said, one of the main, I guess, requirements is opportunity for impact as well. So we've also got limited resources. We want to make sure that our resources are placed in the most appropriate manner and effective, and they are utilized effectively. And through that as well, we also look for countries who may come to us and ask for support, which is quite important because we do want to, I guess, ensure buy-in from the particular countries, and they're on board with our deep dive program and really engage into change and I guess working with the different government agencies as well. So we do look for a multi-government approach, not just the tax authority, the Ministry of Mines. We want to work with all aspects of the government as well. So there are some, I guess, some aspects that we look to as well. I'm not sure, Ali, I know for IGF, it's also an IGF member country is one of the criteria, but there may be others as well that the IGF may look for.
No, I think you've summarised it well. I think the question about are there ever countries that we haven't been able to support? I think we're yet to face a situation where we've have to say no to a country, other than potentially for like resource that we don't have sufficient resources. But generally, we try and find a way to make it work. I think the key issue for us, as Andrew said, is that is there an opportunity for impact, and importantly, is there political buy-in? Because the extractive sector, as many of you will know and have experienced firsthand, is a very politically sensitive sector in many resource-rich countries, be they developed or developing. And so in order to provide assistance, to support policy reform, even in some cases to ensure effective audits of these companies, it does require really engagement from very high levels of government. Otherwise, you may invest a lot of time and resources and it not really come to much. So I think the political economy questions are very important for us, as well as the opportunity for impact. But yeah, that's really essential.
Great, thanks, Ali. I think we're almost at time, and I don't want to run into the next session, so I do want to sort of get on time. We may have a question for one more quick question. Yes, Tano.
Hello. Morning, sir. Morning, madam. I'm Tano Kassi from Côte d'Ivoire. My question is about how to make the extractive sector attractive, in the same time increase the taxations. I'm referring for the model in Côte d'Ivoire, the country from where I'm living, regarding the mining sector. In 2014, we adopted a new mining code, which has been applauded as one of the best mining codes. But I think with only 5 or 6 years of practice, the government decided to remove some attractive clauses, articles regarding taxations. But from our side, as private companies, which is looking for profit, for us, that is not I think that is a failure on the competitive goals from the adoption of the mining code of 2014. So how can we do to make the extractive sector attractive, in the same times be sure that all companies contribute to the economy of the country? That is my questions.
Thank you, Tano.
Please, I have also another one. Is
okay,
about
so sorry. I think. Oh. Sorry to cut you off. I think we are out of time, unfortunately. I think what I recommend, I think we maybe just contact you bilaterally, and we can maybe have a separate discussion. We do have to get to the next session, unfortunately, but just very quickly on your first question, it is quite bespoke, and I think we can have a general discussion and maybe explore that a little bit further, understand the impacts of Côte d'Ivoire and what's happening there. So sorry for not getting to your question. Not that it's not important, but I'm mindful that the next session will be coming on now. So I'll get in contact with you, and we can have a further session online, a further discussion offline. But thank you very much, everyone, for your time today. Hopefully you found this session informative. Just very quickly, just like to thank our particular donors. These are the OECD donors, the IGF. There are some similar ones, but they have some separate donors as well. So without your amazing support, we would not be able to do this amazing work that we do. So thank you very much. But again, hopefully you enjoyed the session, and best of luck enjoying the other sessions as well. Thank you. And thank you, Ali, and to all Emmanuel and Yakuba for all their wonderful presentations. Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks, everyone.
Enjoy the rest of your day.